ReyLight has a new budget-friendly entry into their existing line of triple LED EDC style flashlights, and this is the ReyLight Gemini. The Gemini makes a few design and material choices over the Dawn and Crystal models to reduce cost and make this a more affordable light. Full disclosure, Ray at ReyLight is a friend and sent me this light to evaluate and review. I will do my best to remain impartial and give an honest and fair review. As always, guys, I do have a social media pages on most of the big platforms. If you are interested in joining those, I'll leave links here and appreciate you do so. So the light ships in a fairly basic packaging here. It's just an orange clamshell plastic box. Ray has used these on other models before. If you've got some of his models, then you're familiar with it, but it's got 4 clips on here. It's actually a pretty nice box. Once you undo them, it does have O-rings in the lid here and full foam. And the light just ships in here inside a little plastic silicone bag. Very simple. Kind of a big box for such a small light, but it gives options if you order extras or multiples, things like that. And when it is clamped down, it doesn't rattle around, so you should receive it in good shape. The light does come with a pocket clip, as you see here, and then 3 colored glow-in-the-dark tail caps. Mine here is just black because that's all they had when I got mine, but those are now shipping with them, and I'll have mine soon. So make sure you check out my social media pages because I'll make sure to put one of those on when I get it. I do think ReyLight should consider including a paper manual with the light, or just a card with a link to it, and have it on their website. Even though it's a pretty common UI bistro, a lot of first-timers end up asking questions on the Facebook group, and I think this could be answered with a manual. It's just something that I think is a good idea. So the Gemini here is made from 304 stainless steel. Now, this isn't a common material for flashlights. First flashlight I know of, but I'm sure there's others that end up using 304. In talking with Ray, he liked the solid and cool feel of steel and how it can take a pretty high polish. I think that's one thing I will do here eventually, is just take Mother's like metal polish and just sit here and polish it all out and get it as fine as I can. If I had a buffing wheel or a Dremel or something like that, I'd use that too. But as is, it's really pretty shiny. The downside of stainless steel is that it does weigh a decent amount, and I'll cover that in my size and weight philosophy. It also seems to take fingerprints pretty well, as most high polished metals do. The Gemini here uses a forward clicky switch with a textured rubber silicone boot. It's pretty deeply recessed here, so it tail stands just fine. You can't see it, and that really helps with not being able to turn the light on by mistake. And that's something I like, and it prevents it from coming on in your pocket. With previous ReyLights, like on my copper Dawn here, you can see the button has places for tritium, and that's just not the case with rubber boot. But the good side is you don't get any of the button slop that some previous ReyLight models have had and people dislike. So I think it's a nice trade-off. I don't think it cheapens the light or anything like that, but I do miss the tritium slots. As mentioned before, these come with 3 colors of boots. You get green, orange, blue, and then black to add some personalizations. The only negative I see with this design is that you do collect some dust inside there in that deep recessed area, and that's kind of hard to get out. The walls of the Gemini here are pretty thick. If I unscrew the head, you can see what I'm talking about here. It's a decently thick design. The head itself is decently thick as well, so it's a weighty design. Battery fits in there nice, 18350 size. You can see the threads are Acme cut. You get an O-ring in there, and there is grease applied. I'll probably apply just a little bit more grease to mine because I like to run them pretty wet and lubed up. Threads are fairly smooth, but not as smooth as a good aluminum or copper. The body tube here is a fairly large diamond pattern, and these diamonds, they're milled with a ball end mill, it looks like, and the corners are all square and sharp. It's not sharp where it's going to cut you or anything like that, but it gives you some texture and really does grip on well. I like that. It just is kind of nice. It's nice touch from normal diamond milling, and feels good in the hand. The head of the light has this teardrop pattern we have seen on some other ReyLight models, and then just 4 little dots milled in for style. Other than that, it's pretty plain. Up at the front, you do have 4 light crenulations in the bezel. Still fairly standard design there. You do get a sapphire lens, which is a nice touch on this entry-level light. It provides superior scratch resistance, and like I said, isn't common at this price point. A green O-ring is included in there, and then you can optionally upgrade to a glow gasket to put behind the optic. The stock clip here is the same that's on the Dawn, but made of a relatively thick stainless steel that's been nicely tumbled. Retention out of the package was good, and I don't think people have a big issue with clips getting caught or bent on things. There's plenty of room for a lanyard at top here, and it even kind of fits in with this milled pattern on the side. And this really retains well in your pocket. You can kind of see, I can grab a dollar bill here and kind of use it as a piece of material. And actually, I'm a little bit concerned about ripping the dollar bill, getting it in here. It's that tight. I see that as a good thing. I used this on a recent trip in kind of a high theft area, and I didn't have any concern with somebody stealing this out of my pocket because it was that well attached to my pants. You would have really had to pull fast and run, or I wouldn't notice somebody trying to take it. The last thing about the clip that I like is that it's a standard design here at the front. So you can undo these standard Torx screws, use customized Torx screws, and put in a aftermarket clip like a steel flame or whatnot on here to make it your own. Last thing I'll mention is that since this light is made of stainless steel, my advice would be to put a light coat of oil on it as a preventive measure to prevent rust. 304 stainless steel is pretty resistant to rust. It's the same grade that's used in a lot of cooking applications like appliances, pots and pans, things like that, and cutlery. But you're holding it in your hand, you're getting it wet, things like that. You're just gonna want that little bit of extra protection. I noticed one little area of rust on mine after carrying it for a few days. I live in a pretty humid location and my hands can be sweaty at times, so definitely coat this thing in a little bit of oil. I used Ballistol, and it just gives it a little extra protection. Basically, treat this like you would your good pocket knives. You'd wipe those down with oil every once in a while. Do the same thing with this. So when I first heard this light was going to be made of stainless steel, I was worried about its weight. Since stainless isn't a lightweight material, I was surprised that it's lighter than copper and brass by about 12.45% and 8.05% respectively. That said, titanium blows it out of the water here, being about 54% lighter than stainless steel. The weight I measured the Dawn at was 133.9 grams without the battery, and that's not too bad. Size-wise, this light's pretty similar to a lot of triple LED lights. I'll put on my ReyLight Dawn here in copper, and you can see it's just a hair longer. The MSR D4 here, this is actually a quad light, is quite a bit shorter in diameter, but it is also an E-switch at front, so that helps save some distance there. But the head on that light is a little bit heavier, thicker. So there it is on the famous dollar bill, and I measured the length at 80 millimeters, very close to the Dawn's 82 millimeter length, maximum diameter at 25 millimeters, minimum at 23.5. So the LEDs in my Gemini here are the SST-20 in 4000 Kelvin neutral white high CRI, and it's available with Cree XPL HI LEDs and 6000K if you prefer. I'm a big fan of the Nisha 219 Bs and Cs that ReyLight has typically offered, so I was a little bit disappointed, but it's not the most efficient or cost-effective LED in the market any longer, and the high version of the SST-20 is great at 95, so I think it's a good alternative. You're seeing this is a pretty popular emitter on a lot of lights, so it works here well, and it does come on and low, as you can see here, nicely. ReyLight claims 2000 lumens on turbo mode with the SST-20 LEDs and 3000 lumens with the XPL high LEDs. That trade-off is something I will gladly take for high CRI. I'm just a high CRI fan, so let me know what you'd like in the comments below. This light does get pretty hot pretty quickly on the higher output modes. This is pretty common on triple modes, and the light does thermal cycle pretty fast within about 1.5 minutes on turbo output, and if you keep pushing it, it really does get too hot to hold. I was unable to actually take a reading off my thermal infrared camera or infrared temperature probe. It just didn't like the reflectivity of the stainless steel. Beam shots, it's pretty even for a triple. I'll get it to come on here. As you can see, pretty even. I'll put in some shots on the wall as well. Nothing terribly wrong with the beam here. The optic is the same as the Carrillo 10507, but not actually Carrillo branded optic in this light. It's a Chinese kind of knockoff version. This is similar to what's happened with the Lumentop FW3A here recently with the optics change. I don't think that's a bad thing in this case. It seems to work pretty well. For my runtimes, I did the standard uncooled test and a cooled test with a fan blowing across the light. I used a Keep Power 1200 milliamp hour battery in these tests. The uncooled tests, you end up having longer runtime because the light gets hotter, and that means the light can't run as bright, and so it runs at a lower output to reduce heat, and the result is a longer overall runtime, and you can see that here in the graph. For the cooled runtime test, it does have a seesaw motion, as it does with the other, as it dealt with the heat for 25 minutes while providing the maximum output. So you can see just the difference in runtimes there, that the uncooled run test really does help the light cool down and let the light run brighter for longer, meaning less overall runtime. My advice would be to use the least amount of light you need to get your task done with this light, rather than maximum output to conserve power, and also to make this thing easier to hold in your hand. This is an EDC light. It's not something you're probably going to go camping with and run for hours at one time. That's just not that practical with an 18350 size. Total overall useful output on the cooled test was 45 minutes, but 25 minutes is where you saw the highest output and that seesaw decline. That seesaw decline is kind of a little bit annoying to deal with over a long time because it is noticeable. We saw similar outputs with the ReyLight Dawn in titanium, but my ReyLight Dawn in copper was better because it had the ability for heat to dissipate into the environment here better. The good news here is that since the light's running modified Bistro firmware, you can change that maximum temperature output so it doesn't seesaw quite as much, and it's not uncommon at all for triples to get hot and turn down to preserve their LEDs and battery life. Low voltage protection kicks in at 2.904 volts. Okay guys, since the Gemini has kind of a unique, interesting way it does its throttle control, I've set it up here and I'm going to speed the clip up here so you can see how it decreases in brightness and then increases again. Hey guys, today I've got a review of the ReyLight Gemini. This is running the SST-20 LEDs in high CRI. And this is the lowest mode here. And it's a nice moonlight mode. It's probably 1 lumen, maybe a little bit more. Bumping up, you get quite a bit more light in mode 2 here. This is nice for a lot of tasks like around the house, low light, things like that. Bumping up into mode 3 here, we start to throw into that fence nice. Mode 4, this is a lot more light here. And mode 5 is the highest turbo, about 2000 lumens. You can see it's got kind of a hot spot there. And this is pretty similar to what my eye sees here. Tried to adjust the camera to make it accurate. You can see it throws into that tree nice. For a triple, this is a pretty nice even beam. It's got that Carrillo style optic on there. Does a nice job of smoothing things out here. Okay, so on the left here I've got the ReyLight Dawn in the Nisha LEDs, and just a comparison of tint here. And then on the right I've got the Gemini with the SST-20. We can see the Dawn here is just a little bit warmer beam, a little more neutral. The SST-20 has just maybe ever so slight green tinge. It's slightly more yellow, not quite as warm. There is the Gemini and there is the SST-20. I'd say these have the same optic on them, and I'd say the SST-20 throws better here than the Dawn in the same color mode. So here we are in turbo on the Dawn, and here we are in turbo on the Gemini. Again, just a little bit more spotty, a little bit slightly narrower angle beam, but both good options. This is the Gemini, and this is the O-ring around there glowing nice. This light's using a modified Bistro firmware with 23 total modes. Pretty standard with lots of configurations, options if you like. Chances are you probably already own a light with Bistro, so there's probably nothing here new to learn. In default mode, you get 5 brightness levels. Here's the lowest, next brightest, and number 5 here is turbo. These are all pretty linear, starting at low and going to high. In this configuration, default memory mode is turned on. I'll leave some links to where you can see more about the firmware and a helpful diagram if you want to change anything on this light, such as thermal controls or run it in muggle mode or anything like that. So for me, the pros are it's pretty affordable, around $100 without any extras or with different LEDs shipped. Good LED choices and nice tint options here. You can go cool white or you can go neutral white with high CRI. Good build quality for the price, a nice sapphire lens with superior scratch resistance, and it's a great value at this price point, and it's got a standard clip screw design. The cons are there's no tritium slots in here. That's something ReyLight's been known for in previous lights, but it does decrease cost of production. I do think there's plenty of room here for just a tritium slot around the head, or maybe 1 or 2 here in the bezel. It'd just be kind of fun. Since ReyLight is known for that, it'd be easy to add in a future version. Bistro UI in the default setting is pretty temperature sensitive in this light. That might be something you want to calibrate. If you'd like to see a video on me doing that, let me know in the comments below. And the stainless steel conducts heat pretty well, so when this thing is run for a long time, it gets really hot, pretty much kind of too hot to hold. My conclusion is for this price point of around $100, this is a pretty affordable, high-value light. Stainless steel wouldn't be my first choice of materials for a flashlight, but it does work here. It's a little on the heavy side, but overall I like the design. If you're used to carrying a copper light of similar size, like the ReyLight Dawn here, or other 18350 lights that are a little bit chunky, then stainless steel really won't be much different. I could see a future version going a little bit thinner maybe overall, just push those dimensions, reduce a little bit of weight, make it a little bit easier to carry in your pocket. I think a brass, bronze, or copper versions here would be really neat with a minimal cost increase. And I like that diamond knurling pattern on the body of the light. It's aggressive, but not too much. And retention of the clip is very strong without being too hard to put into the pocket on your pants. Maybe one of the best ReyLights to date on that. I dislike that there's no tritium slots in here, as I was talking about earlier. That's just kind of a thing ReyLight's been known for. So it's a little disappointing to not see that on here. And if you're going to dip your toes into the semi-custom flashlight market, this is kind of a production market, but it's on that one maker, one light type vision. This is a good area to get started at an affordable price point. As always, guys, thanks for watching these videos. I'll have links on where you can buy this light on ReyLight's website. I don't make anything off that, just point you over there in the right direction. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Make sure you leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to check out my social media sites and join up if you haven't already. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.